So I don't want box color to be extremely intimidating to you. It really just comes to one of two options. One is you may not be able to complete the service, and I'll tell you how you can go about talking to your client if that happens. And then two, you may be able to complete the service or customize it to make sure that it's going to work with the situation that you have. But more importantly, you want to be able to talk to your client and level expectations. Now, there's one really simple thing that you can do as soon as you find out that your client has box color that's going to ease so many of your fears and give you some clarity and direction on how to proceed. And this is to start by doing a strand test. Let your client know right in the beginning, no problem, don't show them that you're afraid or super intimidated or you're upset even that they use box color. Just start by saying, so this could present a little bit of a challenge. So what I'm going to recommend is that we just first do a strand test. This is gonna let both of us see exactly a preview of what is possible for your hair, and it might just let us know if this is something that is just simply not possible. So I wanna know that ahead of time so that we don't do your entire hair and then realize, oh, this is not what we wanted to see at all. But let me tell you, once you do that test strand, you as a stylist are going to feel so much more confident moving forward. It's gonna tell you, one, maybe this is not possible, our goals were not possible, and then we're going to shift the plan before doing the entire hair. And two, you're going to be able to actually show the client what is happening inside that foil during the test strand, and they're going to be able to see for themselves, oh, I see what you're saying, that's probably, that color right there is certainly not what I want, and they're going to understand that, yeah, maybe this is not the best idea. Then they're gonna be more receptive to you in your plan for an alternative. So right now, let me go ahead and show you my consultation with Clara, and then I'm gonna show you my exact placement for creating this beautiful golden bronde. You're also gonna see the results of my strand test that I did and why I was so confident moving forward. And of course, I'm going to give you all of my formulas as well. Have any ideas this time, or did you have any like photos that you wanted to show me?
Okay, I did have photos, but after seeing like Sadie's hair, I really liked what she had.
I mean, it's all just based off of your natural base color anyway. So if you like that effect, we could do the same effect on you. It'll just look a little different because of your little bit darker base color.
Yeah.
But it'll look awesome still.
I also like her hair.
Oh yeah. Oh, and that's a really similar base color to you too. Ooh, wobbly. Yeah, that's totally doable. And then we just have a few just kind of concerns just because you have the box color in there. It lifted really well, but there could be just some areas of inconsistency. So it might not be able to get exactly to that. So just be open-minded and then it'll all be good. But it'll be nice and blended. Yeah, see there's like a little bit of a difference in color there. But with the highlights, I think it'll just blend really nicely anyway. Luckily, you didn't do a super dark color, so it should work out pretty good. But I'm so excited. It's gonna look so pretty. Okay, so this is the test strand right here that we did yesterday. I was just looking to make sure the integrity of the hair is still good. We did lightener with 20 volume, and we left it on for about 30 minutes, and it was a pretty consistent lift all the way down, even with the brown box dye in there. So that's going to give me a good preview of what it should be able to do with the full canvas. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it turns out. So when it comes to sectioning, I'm going to do 3 partings, and in my brain, I'm going to think of each panel that I separate as its own head of hair. So I'm designing a look for each panel. With a big project like this, it's much less overwhelming to think of things in small steps rather than just thinking of the big picture and kind of getting lost in what you're doing. So if you feel overwhelmed when you do a big foilayage or lived in color, think of it as a few different small plans that all tie in to accomplish your big plan. So throughout this entire process, I'm only going to use 20 volume developer, nothing higher. And this is because she has previous highlights in her hair. So if anything touches those previous highlights, I want to make sure that they stay strong. I mix to a pretty thick consistency, and it's basically like the consistency of toothpaste. So I don't ever measure lightener, I just mix to the exact consistency I want because this allows me to pin the hair to the foil I get these super long foils from Costco. They're just the Reynolds restaurant foils and I break them off myself. It takes a little bit of time up front, but they're so thick and I can do really big sections in the back, which you'll probably see me do here in just a second. I don't have to use more than one, so that saves a lot of time, and they're really inexpensive, so much less expensive than all those like really fancy foils, which are beautiful to look at, I'll admit, but I just don't like to spend money on something that I'm going to be throwing away. So we are going to do a heavy zigzag pickup in the back here, and this is to create maximum dimension in between the highlights, but it's also going to create a lot of boldness on the ends. So when I'm backcombing the sections in the back here, the goal is to create a lot of depth at the root, because especially at the very base of the hair, there needs to be depth so that any highlights that I do above this are going to fall on top, and when they move around, you're going to be able to see dimension in between. So it's very important to leave the most depth at the root in the back when you are creating a bronde look like this. I place the lightener in the middle of the foil first, where I know I want to apply full saturation. This way I can pin the lightener to the foil as I start to blend around it. It's going to be really important to make sure you take the time to pick out any pre-lightened ends that you don't want to be lightened. The integrity of the hair is always very important to me, so I do take the time to make sure to pull those out. When it comes to what I'm doing inside each foil, what I'm doing is making sure to saturate the surface as I swipe up. I'm using a lot of product, but because I mix thick, I'm not going to get splotches because it's not going to penetrate all the way through this section. It's going to sit on the surface, but it's going to create maximum lift. So how you mix is super important for not getting splotches and making sure to saturate fully. So I'm going to surface paint the pre-lightened ends that aren't lifted super light but just still need a little bit of a bump. Now I could either use a lower developer to do this, or I could just use what I have and just be gentle with my pressure, because that's going to put less lightener on the ends as well. So if there's any areas where you feel like it needs a little bump but you don't really want to put a ton of lightener on, this is a perfect thing to do. Just kind of surface paint it. You'll see as I fold the foil here that these Costco long foils from Reynolds are just so nice because I only need one. I don't need to keep grabbing multiple foils just for one section, and I'm able to get such a big section done at once. So right here, I'm combing out the hair before I back comb it. This is really important because it gives me more control over which hair is moved out of the way through the back comb process. That way you don't end up with random density and everything is just kind of uneven. So the reason that I'm not folding this up a bunch of times like a typical foil is because we painted with different pressure and saturation in different areas. So if I were to fold this all up, then I would be putting maybe a lighter saturation over full saturation, which would then mix together and it would just create a lot of chaos. So I want to keep everything as long and straightened out as possible without folding the foils. So my main objective in the back is to create dimension. So you'll notice that I do much less foils in the back because it's important to leave that depth. In the front, I'm going to do things a little bit differently, and of course I will show you that as well. But it's good to think of each panel you do, like I said in the beginning, as a completely different look. When you break it up into multiple looks and multiple objectives, it makes it easier to not get lost in what you're doing. So my main tip I want you to take away from this video is to always have a game plan for each panel and think about how it's going to connect and transition into the other panels. And by the way, if you struggle with detangling when you do foilayage and you'd like me to make a video about how to do that efficiently without damaging any hair or getting frustrated, comment detangle below and I will try to get a video up about that for you as well. For this top section in the back, I'm going to do something slightly different than I've been doing with the bottom parts of this section. So I like to think of these very top few sections as basically the veil that's going to lay over all the dimension that we created down below. So in order to do that, I'm going to take finer sections, and this is just going to give more diffusion of lightness rather than more dimension. Whereas thicker sections, thicker weaves, gives more boldness, and if you're weaving, then you're also getting lots of dimension as well. So in every single foil that I'm doing, I'm checking out which pieces are light and faded. And I'm making sure to just do a light surface paint there like this. And then while this is processing, I'm going to go back through and make sure it's all processing the way that I want it to. If it needs a little bump, I'll just hit it again. But any of those really light pieces, I just do a really light surface paint just to refresh it a little bit. And then anywhere that it's darker and where that old box color was, I'm going to use high pressure and full saturation. For this last section of my veil, I decided to leave it out. And this is to allow the highlights we did underneath to kind of peek through, and it almost gives kind of like a root shadow effect. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to make sure that I have less brightness in the back than I do in the front. But I'll be able to create seamless transitions so that it all blends together as well. When you transition into the side sections, you want to make sure that you highlight that area of the hairline just behind the ear, because when the hair is pulled forward, this becomes a really important focal point of the face frame. So she's going to feel super bright if you make sure to highlight this area. So right here, I'm just going to check how the underneath is doing, just to make sure everything is still looking healthy enough. It's lifting evenly. It's going to give me an idea of what I'll need to go back through and do. It looks like it's lifting really good right now. So on the right track, it looks really consistent. All right, so we'll keep working on the sides here. And on the sides, I'm just doing zigzag sections, and we're doing back to back right here, and then we're spacing them out a little bit, and then we're going to start to pivot and get that hairline nice and bright. So I'm going to start by taking a diagonal back section off the hairline, and I'm going to do a mini zigzag. And first I'm going to come out here and do one swift back comb to move and push all of the hair to the root. This is so I can get as close as possible to the root, but since her hair is so long, I don't need to go all the way to the root. I need to create a long, seamless transition. If she just had a little tiny bit of grow out, I would not be doing a lot of back combing, and I would be wanting to take much thinner sections. Another thing to know is in the front, usually there's going to be a lot brighter pieces if they've already had their hair done in the past. So you want to take extra care to avoid those so that you don't cause damage. So as I do this next section, you'll notice I'm not really leaving anything in between the sections, and that's because I want to maximize boldness and brightness around the face. Now I still want to have diffused blending, so I'm not creating solid blonde hair. I'm utilizing the back combing to push out tiny pieces of hair throughout the section, so I end up with maximum diffused and blended brightness around the face. So I'll continue working like this on the side panels until I reach the part line. So once I reach the part line, I'm still just going to take really fine foils and I'm going to angle them according to the hairline. So her hairline is actually determining the angle that I am placing the foils. So it's not just arbitrary, it's based off of what her hairline is giving me. And this is so I can create the most natural effect. So I'm going to take out foils as soon as I reach a nice yellow. I want to see a tiny bit of gold, and it's hard to see in this video, but I'm okay with a tiny bit of gold and some pale yellow because my ultimate tone that I want to achieve is kind of a golden bronze. So leaving some of that gold in there is going to help enhance whatever toner I use. By the way, I did an entire video about how to pull foils. I'm not sure if I'm going to release it after this video or before, but once it's released, I will go ahead and put a card up here so that you can check that out. But pulling foils is a really important part of the process, so I do want to let you guys in on exactly how I do that and manage my time and processing during one of these big services. So check that card. If it is posted yet, it will be right up at the top of the screen, and you can check out that video as well. A common question that I get is, do you just rinse the hair before toning or do you shampoo? Now, this is a personal preference, but I personally like to shampoo and condition before toning. Yes, conditioner is going to seal the cuticle, so I make sure to just rinse it out really, really well before toning so that my pH is not significantly affected. Let's talk about toning and color melting formulas. So I actually mixed up 2 formulas, one for her root tap and one for her all over gloss. I'll throw them on the screen here so you can write them down. So what I want to do during toning is to really bring out soft gold tones to get that beautiful light reflection and blend. So I just did a quick tap just on her face frame, and everywhere else I left untouched at the roots. And then I glossed everything with Shades EQ 10AG plus 10N plus 10G plus clear. And we left it on for 20 minutes, which is the full processing time. One thing that I want to point out is if you are trying to be confident and be less overwhelmed and just be confident doing custom lived-in color so that you can charge more, start attracting those higher-end clients, making 6 figures behind the chair, just watching videos is not enough. So I created a free class to help you and show you all the steps that you want to take in order to start reaching those goals. So if that's something that you want to check out, I'm doing a free class right now. It's going to be linked in the description below. Yeah. And check it out.
Oh my god. So much volume. So good.